To start at the beginning, when we ordered into the attack, Oliver Osborne, or Ozzy Osborne, and I were both corporals, and Jim Cahoon was acting platoon sergeant. We didn't have a platoon commander. And when Osborne and I lined up on the start line, we knew each other pretty well. We were in the same section until we were both promoted. And we were looking at the trees. The automatic fire was constant, and the trees bark was stripping off them. When the bullet hit the tree, it'd explode or distort and tear the bark off as it came out. But it was all round about chest and shoulder high. So instead of walking into the attack, we decided the only way to get anywhere was to go in at a run and crouched, which we did. And we dispatched several Japs. And Osborne was on my right. I was on the left-hand side of the track. He was on the right-hand side of the track. We moved one at a time in cooperation. And he tried to clear his gun, his Thompson machine gun, and couldn't clear it, so he put his head down and dived. And as he dived in front of a heap of leaves and dirt, and the gun opened up as he was about horizontal. The gun fired a burst of 2 or 3, and that went through the front of his helmet, out through the back of it, and the helmet flew off, and he was just face down right under the nose of the gun. So it was fairly simple for me. The log between us meant that I could crouch and get round behind these 2 gunners, so I was able to dispatch them, and then decided to get back to my own side of the track. And I'm sure Osborne was dead. And this is very real to me still. The tree that I withdrew to was what's the name of the tree that they have those long roots that start up about 15 feet up and run out? Anyway, we'll pass that up. The roots are like blades, and they stand out from the tree to reach out from 10 or 15 feet out from the butt. I stepped in behind and into one of the wider gaps there, and just at that stage, a bugle call was played, the Japanese, and they started coming down the track past me. And to cut a long story short, they had because they were under pressure, they were running and downhill, and I was on the edge of the escarpment. As they went past me, I gave them a 1-1-2 each. I always used the Thompson on automatic and tapped out single rounds. To fire a burst with a Thompson was suicidal because you'd attract all the attention in the world. Well, I got 6 or 7 of those fellows, and there was all was quiet. There was peace, not a sound, not a shot fired, no word at all. And there was a clang and down the track about 20 yards on the same continuation of where the log was, and two fellows climbed out of this hole. One of them had a box containing magazines, a tin can of magazines, and the number 1 was with the gun. Well, the fellow carrying the magazines was the easier target, so I stopped him. Then I swung onto the bloke with the submachine, with the light machine gun, who had seen me, tried to swing onto me, and I gave him 2 in the chest area, and he crouched and went backwards, but still tried to raise his gun. So I went straight through onto automatic, and I could see the strike on the front of his shirt, and took it down the front. I realised he was armoured, and realised that if I moved upward and missed his head, I was gone. So I took it diagonally across his body. I could see it go. When it hit the groin area, he threw his gun away and dived over. And my gun whirred empty. It's a drum of 50, which we always used in attack. And it just, I reached into a pouch for a box magazine, and there were none, and in this pouch there were none. Because being greedy, when we were able to restock ammunition, I filled the magazines and then emptied a box of 50 to 45 calibre rounds into the bottom of the pouch so they couldn't do the lid up. And in the ducking and diving down the hill, I'd spilt those and hadn't realised it. So I was alone in the world with an empty gun. So I remembered Osborne had 2 magazines. They were visible when he was. Anyway, I knew that he had these magazines. And I went back to the log and threw my leg over the log and grabbed Osborne and rolled him over on his back, still thinking he was dead. Grabbed the magazine and stuck it on the gun, and there was a bang from right close by, sort of immediately. I didn't know where it came from, and I had to toss up to get back into the war with 20 rounds in the magazine, or go for the other 2 drums, 2 magazines, and make it 60. So I settled for the 60 and reached down and got the magazines and got my fingers on them, and the bloke who'd fired the one shot fired an automatic burst at me. He was dug in under the same log I had my leg over. The muzzle was about that far away from me. So that's, I knew that I was lucky to survive. My left arm wasn't too good, and the worst aspect was pink froth around the mouth, the hemorrhaging lung, which I knew what that was. And I had to blow the froth away to suck air in and breathe with a minimum amount of movement of the chest, which all sounds an impossible situation, but it's very real. And while I was in that position face down in the mud, I heard a movement behind me, the way where our fellows had been, and a voice said, "Steady on, you fellows, the best thing we can do is to pull out quietly." It was another battalion, and hadn't seen any of my section since I started, and I was absolutely livid. So I found myself on my feet and talking to this bloke, standing over him virtually and telling him that he'd better change his mind or he wouldn't be very lucky, that the war was over in that particular setup. Bill O'Keefe came and took my gun from me and said, "Come on, boy, we'll patch you up," and put a bandage around my ribs. And at that point, that was my exit from the war. It was all from that battle.